Welcome to Hidden Points. Today, we begin with a hidden truth that most people never notice, yet it silently shapes relationships, friendships, success, and even the way the world sees you. There is a specific kind of person who looks confident on the surface, acts like they have everything under control, and yet they carry a deep, invisible fear that almost nobody talks about. That fear is the fear of being truly seen. This isn't about being shy or introverted. It's not about lacking confidence. It's something much deeper, rooted in identity, history, trauma, and the way the mind protects itself. The moment you understand this psychology, everything about these people finally makes sense, and you start to see the world through a completely different lens. People who fear being seen aren't afraid of other people. They're afraid of what other people might discover inside them. That fear becomes the silent architect of their entire life, shaping how they talk, how they move, how they love, and how they push people away, even when they desperately want connection. This fear begins early, long before a person becomes aware of it. In childhood, the mind learns to create shields to survive emotional pressure, expectations, criticism, or misunderstandings. The child begins to adapt by hiding the parts that feel too fragile, too complicated, or too misunderstood. These hidden parts don't disappear. Instead, they sink deep inside and become the secret self that nobody is allowed to see. This becomes the foundation of the fear. When a person learns early that being fully visible means being judged or rejected, the brain creates a lifelong defense mechanism that activates automatically whenever someone gets too close. This is why people who fear being seen often appear mysterious, quiet, and private, not because they're trying to be interesting, but because they've learned that showing themselves is dangerous. If you pay close attention, you'll notice patterns that repeat across their friendships, jobs, and relationships. They'll talk about everything except their own feelings. They'll laugh and socialize without ever revealing what's happening inside them. They'll help others, listen to others, and support others, yet never allow anyone to do the same for them. They become experts at keeping the attention away from their inner world, because attention feels like exposure, and exposure feels like danger. Their mind has convinced them that if people saw the real them, they would leave, judge, or criticize. So, their entire personality becomes a fortress built from silence, observation, and controlled distance. These people are not weak, antisocial, or cold. They are simply protecting a part of themselves they believe cannot survive the outside world. This fear becomes so automatic that they don't even notice how often they hide behind jokes, confidence, logic, or distraction. They become masters of emotional camouflage, blending into groups without ever revealing their true emotional colors. When someone tries to get close, they retreat not because they dislike the person, but because closeness feels like a spotlight, and they don't trust that anyone can handle what they truly are inside. This fear also affects ambition, goals, and self-expression. People who fear being seen hesitate to take risks, show their talents, or put themselves in positions of attention. They may be extremely smart, gifted, and creative, but they sabotage their opportunities because success feels like exposure, and exposure feels dangerous. So they remain in the background where they feel safe, while secretly wishing they could step forward without fear. This psychological paradox creates an internal war. On one side, they crave connection, attention, and understanding. On the other side, they are terrified of receiving those things, because receiving them means being visible, and being visible means being judged. This constant war drains them and leaves them mentally exhausted. When you observe their behavior, you notice very specific traits. They rarely talk about personal problems. They often avoid deep eye contact. They might prefer texting over real conversations. They share information in small, controlled pieces and always keep emotional exits ready in case things feel too intense. They rarely ask for help, even when they need it. They get nervous when attention shifts to their emotions or past experiences. They apologize for things that aren't their fault, because guilt is easier than vulnerability. All of this behavior is driven by the fear that someone might see the parts of them they have spent years hiding. This fear also affects their relationships. They love quietly and deeply, but at a distance. They rarely initiate vulnerability and often choose partners who are emotionally unavailable because it feels safer. They might end relationships not because they lost interest, but because someone got too close and their mind reacted by pulling away for protection. To outsiders, they look like they don't care, but inside, they care too much. And caring feels dangerous, because caring makes them visible. People who fear being seen often have rich inner worlds full of thoughts, imagination, and self-analysis. They spend a lot of time inside their mind because the inner world feels safer than the outer world. They become experts at reading others, understanding emotions, and predicting reactions, because observing others is easier than exposing themselves. They may appear confident, but this confidence is often a shield built from observation and control, not from vulnerability. They are the kind of people who stay calm in public but collapse in private, who hold everything together for everyone else but have nowhere to fall themselves. The most fascinating thing about them is that they often attract people who want to understand them. Their mystery has a gravitational pull, but the more someone tries to understand them, the more they retreat, like a frightened animal hiding from a light that feels too bright. Yet, deep inside, they wish someone could see the real them without asking them to reveal everything. This desire creates a quiet loneliness. They want connection, but fear its cost. They want love, but fear losing themselves in it. This fear also comes from perfectionism. Many people who fear being seen have unrealistic standards for themselves. They believe they must always appear in control, strong, and composed. If they show weakness, confusion, or sadness, they believe they will lose respect or admiration. So they lock these emotions inside, believing that the world will not accept them in their raw form, that their real self is not good enough to be seen. This belief becomes the prison that keeps them isolated, even when surrounded by people. So why do they feel this way? The answer lies in the way the brain protects itself. The brain learns from past experiences. If past vulnerability brought pain, the brain will avoid it. If past exposure brought judgment, the brain will hide. These barriers are not conscious choices. They are survival strategies. They become so automatic that the person no longer realizes they're doing it. They simply feel uncomfortable when someone gets too close or looks too deeply. Their body reacts with tension, their thoughts become chaotic, and their instincts scream to pull away. The fear becomes physical. Healing this fear doesn't mean forcing vulnerability. That only triggers more fear. Healing begins with understanding that the hidden self is not something to be ashamed of, but something that deserves safety and connection. People who fear being seen need time, patience, and trust. They need relationships where their pace is respected, where they are allowed to open up slowly, without pressure. When they finally find someone who creates that kind of emotional safety, they begin to reveal themselves, piece by piece. The transformation is incredible. Once the fear loses its power, the person becomes warm, expressive, and deeply loyal, because they finally feel safe enough to exist without hiding. The world becomes wider and brighter when they learn that being seen isn't always dangerous, and that the right people will not run away from their truth. In the end, the psychology of people who fear being truly seen is not about weakness. It is about protection. Beneath their silence lies a heart that feels deeply and a mind that thinks endlessly. When you understand this fear, you understand them completely. You begin to see that these people are not difficult or cold. They are simply waiting for the world to prove that being seen will not destroy them. Once they feel safe enough to step out of the shadows, their true self shines with an intensity that surprises everyone. They were never hiding because they were empty. They were hiding because they were full, and they were afraid the world couldn't handle their depth. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights into the hidden parts of our psychology. See you next time.